Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before we dive into our topic, let me tell you a bit about what makes this presentation special. Here at Ultra Prime Selections, we're all about delivering the highest quality insights, tools, and knowledge to help you excel, whether you're navigating a challenging business environment or, in today's case, the great outdoors. Survival is the ultimate test of resourcefulness. Ultra Prime Selections is proud to bring you not just survival tips, but the best, most unexpected advice from leading nature experts. Because when it comes to excellence, we don't just meet expectations, we redefine them. So, get ready to learn how to use nature to your advantage. These survival secrets are the real deal, tried and tested in the wild. Let's get started with the most unexpected survival tips from nature experts. You never know when these might come in handy. We're heading deep into the wilderness, where danger lurks around every corner. Out here, injuries are a constant threat, and you need to be prepared. That's where nature's first aid kit comes in. We're talking about pine sap. You know, that sticky stuff that gets all over your hands? Turns out it's not just a nuisance. This resin is a natural wound sealant with antimicrobial properties. It's like nature's own antiseptic bandage. If you find yourself with a cut or scrape, don't panic. Locate a pine tree, they're pretty hard to miss, and carefully collect some sap. Remember, hygiene is key, even in survival situations. Try to use a clean tool to gather the sap and avoid getting any dirt or debris in it. Once you've got your sap, apply it directly to the wound. It'll create a protective barrier, keeping out dirt and infection while helping to stop the bleeding. Trust me, this stuff is a lifesaver. It's a reminder that nature provides for us, even in the toughest situation. Water, it's the essence of life, the most vital resource for all living beings on this planet. It's the elixir of life, essential for survival. Without it, life as we know it would cease to exist. But finding it in the wild can be a real challenge. In arid environments, the search for water can become a matter of life and death. Luckily, we don't have to go it alone. The natural world is full of clues if you know where to look. Nature has given us the ultimate survival guides: animals. They are experts at finding water sources. Animals, especially herbivores, are masters at finding water sources. They have an innate ability to locate water, honed over generations. They need it to survive, just like us. Their survival instincts drive them to water, and we can use this to our advantage. So, they've developed an incredible ability to locate even the most hidden springs and streams. And the best part? They leave behind trails that we can follow. They've already done the hard work for us. By following their trails, we can find water sources with much less effort. We just need to know where to look. Animal trails are often subtle, but can be identified with a keen eye. Keep your eyes peeled for animal trails. These paths are often well-worn and can lead you directly to water. These are well-worn paths carved out by generations of animals moving through their environment. They are like nature's highways. And guess where they often lead? You got it, water. These trails are reliable indicators of nearby water sources. Now, not all animal trails are created equal. Some may be faint and less traveled, while others are clear and well-defined. You're looking for well-defined paths, clearly used regularly. These are the ones most likely to lead you to water. These trails will often converge, leading to watering holes that have sustained animals for generations. These spots are like oases in the wilderness. Feathered friends point the way. If you're having trouble finding trails on the ground, look to the skies. Birds, especially seed-eating birds, can be your feathered guides to water. They are often seen near water sources. They need to drink regularly, and they often fly in large flocks. Their flight patterns can lead you to water. Pay close attention at dawn and dusk. These are the times when birds are most active, heading out from their roosts to find water and returning in the evening. Watch their flight patterns. Are they all flying in the same direction with a purpose? This can be a strong indicator of a nearby water source. It's a good bet they're headed to a water source. Birds have an incredible sense of direction and can lead you to water. Follow their lead, but remember to keep a safe distance. Respect their space and observe from afar. We're sharing the wilderness, not invading their space. It's important to coexist peacefully with wildlife. Remember, finding water in the wild is about observation and using your surroundings to your advantage. Every clue can be a step closer to survival. By following the clues animals leave behind, you can dramatically increase your chances of finding this precious resource and securing your survival. Stay vigilant, stay observant, and let nature guide you. With patience and keen observation, the wilderness will reveal its secrets and you will find the water you need to thrive. Right, we're talking survival in the harshest conditions. Temperatures plummeting, snow whipping around you, and you need shelter up fast. Forget fancy tents, nature provides. Snow, yes, snow can be your best friend. It might seem counterintuitive, but this icy blanket is a surprisingly good insulator. Building a snow cave is like creating your own personal igloo. You'll need a deep drift and a small shovel or even a sturdy branch. Dig in, creating a tunnel entrance that slopes upwards, then hollow out a chamber. Remember, body heat rises, so this design keeps you warmer. Pack the walls tight, smoothing them out to prevent drips. A small ventilation hole is crucial. We don't want you nodding off permanently from lack of oxygen. A well-built snow cave can mean the difference between a bone-chilling night and a surprisingly bearable one. Trust me, I've weathered some brutal storms in these things. The silence inside, the way it shuts out the wind, it's almost peaceful. Remember, staying calm and focused, even when the elements are against you, that's key to survival. All right, we've sorted shelter, now let's talk sustenance. Out here, you can't always be picky about what ends up on your plate. Forget fancy restaurants. Nature provides its own buffet, you just need to know where to look. And sometimes that means facing your fears and embracing the world of creepy crawlies. Insects, yes, you heard me right, are protein powerhouses. Think of them as nature's little energy bars, packed with nutrients and ready to fuel your survival. Grasshoppers, crickets, even ants, they might not sound appetizing, but they can mean the difference between starving and staying alive. Now, I'm not saying you should go chomping down on anything that crawls. Avoid anything brightly colored, a sure sign of toxicity. Stick to the duller, more camouflaged insects, they're usually a safe bet. And always cook them thoroughly to kill off any parasites. I've lost count of the times I've relied on insects to keep me going. A handful of roasted grasshoppers, sprinkled with a bit of salt if you're lucky enough to have any. Trust me, it's not as bad as you think. Remember, survival is about adapting, overcoming those initial feelings of disgust and doing what it takes to stay alive. We live in a world increasingly reliant on technology. And while out in the wilderness, your smartphone might seem like a dead weight, think again. Even without signal, it can be a vital tool for survival. The battery, that little powerhouse of energy, can be a lifesaver in more ways than one. First up, signaling. Remember those survival mirrors we talked about? Well, a phone battery can reflect sunlight just as effectively. Carefully dismantle your phone, being mindful of any sharp edges, and extract the battery. Angle it towards the sun, using the flat, reflective surface to create a beam of light. Sweep this beam across the horizon, aiming at potential aircraft or distant rescuers. And that's not all. In a desperate situation, a phone battery can even be used to start a fire. Now, this is a last-ditch effort, as it can damage the battery beyond repair. But if you're facing a life-or-death scenario, it's worth a shot. To create a spark, you'll need your phone battery, a piece of steel wool, and some dry tinder. The steel wool acts as the conductor, while the battery provides the jolt of energy needed to ignite the tinder. Carefully rub the steel wool against the positive and negative terminals of the battery. This creates a short circuit, generating sparks that can ignite the tinder. Be patient, it might take a few attempts to get it going. Once the tinder catches, gently blow on the embers, gradually adding small twigs and branches to build a larger fire. Remember, fire means warmth, protection, and a signal to potential rescuers. So there you have it, a seemingly everyday object transformed into a vital survival tool. We've all heard the saying, red sky at night, sailor's delight, but out here deep in the wild we've got to rely on more than just folklore. Nature provides its own weather forecasts, and sometimes the best meteorologist is a pine cone. That's right, these little fellas are surprisingly accurate. See how the scales are closed up tight? That means rain's on the way. Pine cones are like natural hygrometers, responding to changes in humidity. When the air gets damp, the scales absorb moisture and swell, forcing them shut. It's a simple but effective way to tell if you need to batten down the hatches and prepare for a downpour. Trust me, knowing when to take cover can be the difference between a comfortable night and a miserable, soaking one. So, next time you're out in the wilderness, keep an eye on those pine cones. They might just save you from a soaking. We all know that water is essential for survival. Without it, our bodies can't function properly, and in extreme conditions we can only last a few days without it. Out here, it's more precious than gold. In the wilderness, finding a reliable water source can be a matter of life and death. But what happens when you're desperate, your canteen is bone dry, and there's no sign of a spring or stream? The situation can quickly become dire. Well, we're about to delve into a survival technique that's not for the faint of heart. It's a method that requires mental fortitude and a strong will to survive. Yes, folks, we're talking about urine. It might sound extreme, but in a survival scenario, every option must be considered. I know, it's not the most appetizing topic. The thought alone can make many people cringe. But in a life or death situation, we've got to push past the squeamishness and think practically. Survival often means doing things we never thought we would. Human urine, while unpleasant, is sterile when it leaves the body and contains valuable salts and minerals. These can be crucial in maintaining your body's electrolyte balance. Now, I'm not suggesting you gulp it down straight. That would be a mistake. That's a recipe for disaster. Drinking urine directly can actually dehydrate you further and make a bad situation worse. Drinking urine directly can actually dehydrate you further and make a bad situation worse. The salts and minerals, while beneficial in small amounts, can be harmful in large quantities. Instead, we're going to use the power of the sun to purify it. This method allows us to extract the water content while leaving behind the impurities. This is where our trusty solar still comes in. It's a simple yet effective device that can be a lifesaver in desperate times. It's a simple but ingenious device that mimics the natural water cycle. By harnessing the sun's energy, we can turn undrinkable liquid into life-saving water. We'll dig a hole in the ground, place a container in the center, and cover the hole with a sheet of plastic. This setup will allow us to collect the evaporated water. Then we'll weigh down the plastic in the center, creating a funnel shape. This will direct the condensed water into our container. Now here's the important part. We'll carefully pour our urine into the outer trench of the hole, being careful not to contaminate the central container. This ensures that only the purified water is collected. As the sun beats down on the plastic, it heats the trapped air and evaporates the moisture from the urine. This process separates the water from the impurities. This evaporated water, now pure and clean, condenses on the underside of the plastic and trickles down into the central container. It's a natural distillation process. And voila! We have ourselves a source of drinkable water purified by the very power of the sun. This method can be a game-changer in survival situations. Remember, this is an absolute last resort. It's a technique to be used when no other options are available. But knowing how to extract drinkable water from even the most unappealing sources could mean the difference between survival and, well, in the wild, knowledge is power and preparation is key. Out here in the wild, it's easy to feel alone, but the truth is, we're surrounded by life, and if we pay attention, the animals and plants around us can be our greatest allies, especially when it comes to staying safe. One of the most important things to learn is the language of silence. Now, you might think silence is just the absence of sound, but in the wilderness it can be a warning. A sudden hush falling over a normally bustling forest can be a sign of danger. Animals are incredibly perceptive. They can sense changes in the environment long before we do. So if you notice birds abruptly stopping their songs, squirrels vanishing from sight, or a general stillness in the air, it's time to get your guard up. This sudden silence could mean a predator is nearby, stalking its prey, or it could signal an approaching natural disaster like a wildfire or a severe storm. Whatever the cause, it's always best to err on the side of caution. Pay attention to the behavior of the animals around you. Are they acting agitated or fleeing in a particular direction? These are all clues that something is amiss. Don't ignore them. Remember, out here, knowledge is power. The more you understand the subtle cues and warning signs of the natural world, the better equipped you'll be to handle any situation. Stay vigilant, stay aware, and trust your instincts. They might just save your life. We've talked about finding water, but what about making sure it's safe to drink? Out here, looks can be deceiving. That crystal clear stream might be teeming with microscopic nasties that'll lay you out flatter than a pancake on a griddle. That's where fire comes in. Not just for warmth, not just for cooking, but for purification. See, that charred wood left over from your fire, that charcoal, it's like nature's Brita filter. Now, I'm not talking about the briquettes you use for your backyard barbecue, mind you. We want the natural stuff, straight from the heart of the fire. Once you've got a good amount, crush it up as fine as you can. The smaller the pieces, the better the filtration. Next, find yourself a piece of cloth, a bandana, a spare sock, anything that'll act as a barrier. Layer it thick like you're building a nest for a baby bird, then pile that charcoal right on top. Now, slowly and carefully, pour your questionable water over the charcoal. It's like watching magic happen. That murky, suspect liquid will slowly drip through, transformed into something clearer, something safer. It's not an instant fix, mind you. You'll want to repeat this process a few times just to be on the safe side, but trust me, the effort is worth it. Clean water is the difference between a fighting chance and a one-way ticket out of the wilderness. Remember, out here we respect the elements. Fire can be a destructive force, but harnessed correctly, it becomes a tool for survival, a guardian of our well-being. So next time you're staring into the flames, remember its power. It's not just about staying warm, it's about staying alive. Out here, in the unforgiving embrace of the wild, knowledge is king. It's not just about having the right gear or the strongest willpower. It's about understanding the principles that can keep you alive when everything else fails. And there's one piece of wisdom that's as valuable as any compass or map, the rule of threes. This rule is a cornerstone of survival training, a guideline that helps prioritize your actions in life-threatening situations. It's a simple concept, easy to remember, but its implications could mean the difference between life and death. The rule of threes is not just a list, it's a hierarchy of needs that dictates the order in which you should address survival priorities. Think of it as a survival checklist, a hierarchy of needs when Mother Nature throws her worst at you. This rule helps you focus on the most critical aspects of survival first, ensuring that you address the most immediate threats to your life. First on the list, and by far the most urgent, is air. Without a clear airway, your chances of survival plummet rapidly. You can only last about 3 minutes without it. This is why maintaining a clear airway, especially in situations like being trapped or submerged, is absolutely critical. That's why a clear airway, especially in situations like being trapped or submerged, is absolutely critical. In such scenarios, every second counts, and knowing how to react can save your life. Next up, we've got shelter. Exposure to the elements can be just as deadly as a lack of air. Now, you might be able to tough it out for a day or two exposed to the elements, but push it beyond 3 hours in extreme conditions and you're playing a dangerous game. The human body can only withstand so much before it starts to shut down. Hypothermia and heat stroke are silent killers, waiting to pounce on the unprepared. These conditions can set in quickly and without much warning, making it crucial to find or create shelter as soon as possible. That's why knowing how to build a basic shelter, even if it's just a makeshift lean-to or a snow cave, is an essential survival skill. These shelters can provide the protection you need to survive harsh weather conditions. Remember, any port in a storm. Finding or creating shelter can be the difference between life and death in extreme conditions. Now we come to water, the elixir of life. Water is essential for maintaining bodily functions and staying hydrated. We've talked about finding it, purifying it, but the rule of threes tells us just how crucial it is. Without water, your body will start to shut down, leading to severe dehydration and eventually death. You can survive roughly 3 days without water. However, the effects of dehydration can start to set in much sooner, affecting your ability to think clearly and make sound decisions. Dehydration is a slippery slope. It starts with thirst, then progresses to fatigue, confusion, and eventually, if left untreated, it can be fatal. This is why securing a water source is so important. It starts with thirst, then progresses to fatigue, confusion, and eventually, if left untreated, it can be fatal. The importance of water cannot be overstated in a survival situation. That's why securing a water source, even before you start thinking about food, should be a top priority. Lastly, we have food. While it may not be as immediately critical as air, shelter, or water, it is still essential for long-term survival. You might be surprised to hear you can actually survive for about 3 weeks without eating. The human body is capable of enduring long periods without food, but it comes at a cost. Now, I'm not saying it'll be pleasant, but the human body is remarkably resilient. However, going without food for extended periods can lead to severe weakness and impaired cognitive function. However, don't let that lull you into a false sense of security. While you can survive without food for a while, it is still crucial to find sustenance to maintain your strength and energy. Food provides the energy and nutrients we need to power through challenging situations. It helps keep our bodies and minds functioning at their best. So while it might not be the most pressing concern, it's still vital to learn how to forage, trap, or hunt for sustenance. Knowing how to find and prepare food in the wild can make a significant difference in your ability to survive and thrive in a survival situation. We've covered a lot of ground in our time together, from the practical uses of pine sap to the life-saving importance of the rule of threes. But the greatest lesson I can impart is this: to survive, you don't need a lot of gear. You need knowledge, creativity, and the ability to stay calm. These unexpected tips from nature experts prove that solutions are often right in front of us if only we know where to look. The wilderness can be a harsh teacher, but it's also full of hidden wisdom waiting to be discovered. So take what you've learned today and keep exploring. It might just save your life one day. Remember, survival isn't about luck. It's about preparation, resourcefulness, and above all, an unyielding will to live. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and never underestimate the power of nature, both its dangers and its incredible ability to provide.